Welcome back to the Radio Academy podcast. I'm your host, Georgie Jameson, and if you're listening to this on the day of release, 17th of September, then it's the Radio Academy Festival Day. On the podcast this week, we wanted to get you excited for what you might expect in a new area for the festival, the Dolby Library Stage. The Dorchester Library at the Royal College of Physicians is being turned into a state-of-the-art immersive audio showcase, and the stage will be hosted by broadcaster Steph Hurst. It's going to include sessions from Wise Buddha and Dolby, Dr. Sian Williams and Professor Catherine Loveday talking about how immersing ourselves in music changes the way we think and feel. Plus, there'll be a brand new immersive piece getting an exclusive preview at the festival, Sonic Sunset, which is an acoustic artwork fusing science and sounds with recordings from distinct ecosystems over 40 years, made by Media Art Exploration. Coming up, I chat with Kay Machalot from Media Art Exploration about Sonic Sunset and with Dr. Sian Williams about the fusion of science and sound. But firstly, I met Richard Addis, music engineer from Dolby, and I asked him to tell me all about Dolby's involvement with the library stage at the festival this year.
This year, Dolby are partnering with the Radio Academy Festival to enable the Dolby Library as part of the festival programme for the first time. We've been working across various content areas for a large number of years now at Dolby, originating in film, TV, more recently in music, and then kind of podcasting and audio only has been a significant growth area that we've seen over the last, I'd say 3 to 4 years, something like that. Partnering with the Radio Academy this year is a first opportunity for us to help showcase what Dolby and the Dolby Atmos experience is, and also to help showcase some of the amazing work that the Radio Academy's members themselves are already starting to work on and deliver in immersive audio. And hopefully people will get a sense of what immersive audio is if they're not familiar with it, and also how they can start working in immersive audio themselves and find out a bit more about the opportunities and the relevance to this area.
So tell me, what is immersive audio then? What makes it immersive?
Immersive audio is three-dimensional sound. Surround sound, as we've had it historically, has been pretty two-dimensional. With the advent of immersive audio and Dolby Atmos specifically, what we've done is we've added an upper part to the sound experience, an upper hemisphere. So now you have an experience which is more akin to how we hear sound in the real world. We're used to being immersed fully with sound in a fully three-dimensional environment. We're able to leverage new tools, new technologies to be able to deliver that experience from the mixing studio all the way through to the audience and to listeners. Dolby Atmos is the core technology which enables that ability, and it opens up a whole new world of creative potential for creators, for makers. The 3D canvas now is greatly expanded compared to what it used to be with stereo or even 5.1. So there's just more space to be able to tell amazing, immersive stories compared to what people might be used to. There's other benefits as well. More space generally leads to increased clarity and detail. Dialogue becomes clearer, more easy to understand. You can perhaps place different voices around a space so that it's easier to understand who's talking at any point in time. You've also got increased dynamic range. I think a lot of the creation up until now has been constrained by the limited dynamic range that you get with stereo, and especially true in music, where the loudness war, as it has been, is much discussed. Dolby Atmos affords you much more dynamic range to be able to play with and make the most of with your creative storytelling.
So is this about layers of sound then? I mean, we hear a lot about soundscaping now, particularly in podcasts. You know, is this about having dialogue, then there's music, there might be sound effects?
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be, absolutely. So Dolby Atmos and immersive audio can be whatever you want it to be. And as much as that might sound a bit of a cop-out answer.
That sounds quite a broad brush, doesn't it? You know, whatever you want it to be.
But it really can be. So I think people think of immersive audio and surround sound in terms of the kind of Hollywood blockbuster films where there's helicopters and things flying around. But my background was film and TV post-production. I worked in natural history specifically for a long time. And documentary is one of my favorite use cases for immersive audio because your MO there is to try and transport your listener or your audience into a physical environment that they themselves can't visit, that they're in their living room or in their headphones. It's the real subtle things that you can do with immersive audio that can be the most transportative. That could be as simple as ambiances and room tones and maybe subtle use of reverbs, anything to kind of give you a sense that you're enveloped and surrounded by sound. So it doesn't have to be the helicopters and the things flying past you. It can be really subtle use cases which are incredibly effective. Once people understand the potential of actually relatively simple mechanisms like that, it starts to open up a whole world of possibilities where people thought maybe it was outside of their reach. You don't have to have a Hollywood feature film budget to be able to make incredibly immersive content.
The Sonic Sunset piece, your technology helps creatives like that showcase their work to the best of its ability.
Yeah, I would say so. It's such a fantastic showcase of the potential of immersive audio. It's a piece that the team have worked incredibly hard to create a incredibly immersive experience for the listener. It's a fantastic journey that they're able to take you on through immersive audio. And I think there's definitely things within that piece where if it were presented in stereo, for example, it wouldn't land as well as it does in immersive audio.
Can you tease us a little bit as to what you're going to be talking about in your session on the Dolby Library stage?
We've got a really great program of events across the day. So obviously the Sonic Sunset, we've got the Wise Buddha team also going to be showcasing a immersive audio experience that they've been working on. And then also there's going to be the Dolby session. If you're unfamiliar with Dolby tools and technologies, if you're unfamiliar with what Dolby Atmos is and immersive audio in general is, and you just want to understand a bit more about it and maybe why it is relevant to you, or maybe perhaps more relevant than you would have otherwise thought, then that's what the Dolby session is going to be. It's going to be starting relatively first principles, what is Dolby Atmos, and then we'll talk about workflows, creation ideas, the kind of general impact to your workflow.
Finally, Richard, what do you think for you is so emotive about sound?
I think for me, sound is incredibly transporting. It has the ability, if you're sat in a room listening to audio, you're listening to a soundscape of a tundra or a glacier or something like that. It can be a hot summer's day and it makes you feel cold. It's incredibly affecting, both physically and emotionally, I think. When you add the layer of immersion to it that Dolby Atmos and 3D immersive audio can give you, it just adds another layer to the experience. We're a lot more sensitive to poor quality audio than perhaps we are with visuals. And I think when you're working in an audio only medium, the potential of having incredibly high quality audio is there with tools and technologies like this. Immersive audio gives you the ability to elevate the sonic experience more than we're used to being able to have done in the past.
A big thank you to Richard Addis from Dolby. You heard us talking there about the Sonic Sunset immersive sound piece, which has its exclusive preview on the Dolby Library stage today at the festival. So let's find out more about it. Here's Nick Ryan, who, along with Media Art Exploration, developed the piece, talking on the Today programme on BBC Radio 4.
The Radio Academy is showing a series of works that are sort of touching the future of radio and sound work in Dolby Atmos. So we're using a spatial system to present work. And Sonic Sunset is a project I've been involved with for a couple of years. It's a collaboration with 3 scientists who describe themselves as acoustic ecologists. And acoustic ecology is a field of science which many people don't know about. And the scientists study the sound of the natural world. They use a microphone as their measurement device. And I think that's quite novel. And the amazing thing about sound as data, as they would describe their field recordings, is that not only can you represent it on a graph, as you would rainfall data, for example, but you can also experience it. And I can't think of another type of scientific data that you can actually experience in that way. So what we've done is we've taken these amazing field recordings of humpback whales under the oceans of southern Alaska, orangutans in Borneo, and birds over the skies of southern India. And we have spatialized them, put them in a theatre, and allowed people to experience them. And the crucial thing about these recordings is that many of these sound worlds no longer exist because of the effects of humans on the environment.
That was Nick Ryan talking on the Today programme on BBC Radio 4 about Sonic Sunset. I chatted with Kay Matchalot from Media Art Exploration, who was the director of Sonic Sunset, and I asked her to explain in more detail what it is.
Sonic Sunset is a sonic tour of the globe. You tour 3 ecosystems starting under the Arctic waters near Alaska, go up to the rainforests of Borneo, the canopy of the rainforests of Borneo, and then to the skies above southern India. We have collaborated with 3 scientists who are in the fields studying those ecosystems for the last between 5 and 15 years, recording the soundtracks of the ecosystems. And in the first one, it's whales. And the second, it's orangutans. And the third, it's the birds. So each ecosystem has its story, which is told by the soundscape and the change of sound over time. So you have 2 tales of caution in the Arctic waters in Borneo, where human impact is disrupting the communicative web and the overall environment. And then in the third case, the Western Ghats of India were basically completely deforested by the tea plantations in the 19th and 20th centuries. And the late 20th century, India got together a very concerted conservation effort and has reforested. So you've had all the species disappeared, and now they've returned. So it's a story of resilience and beauty and growth. And if we get our act together as human beings, we can actually restore and revitalize. So it's a way of connecting people with the natural world in a visceral way, because the sound is done with the most advanced spatialized sound technology. And we feel sound is an underused sense right now. It reverberates in your solar plexus. Sound is the great revealer is sort of the motto of this piece in terms of how we can listen and understand and connect with the living earth.
I love that. Sound is the great revealer. You said this has been, 15 years in the making?
Wendy's been in Borneo probably 17 years. Michelle's been in the Arctic waters at least 10. Vijay's been in the Western Ghats about the last 5.
So this has been long-term research. Where did the idea to make this into an immersive sound piece come from?
Media Art Exploration works with artists, and we catalyze, and sometimes I produce, sometimes I direct and produce. We create work that integrates science and technology. We're trying to talk about important things with that, but we're trying to make art first. So we're not sending telegrams. We're raising awareness. I thought that sound was a great way to communicate with people the change and some of the threat. I sort of wake up, but without beating them over the head with, it's just awful, doom is around the corner. In fact, if we focus our energies, we can restore. It was the beauty of the sound, Nick's incredible talent with sound, combined with these recordings. These scientists are called bioacousticians. It's a new field of the last 25 years, 30 years. Their beautiful field recordings, combined with Nick's incredible artistry, I thought would be a wonderful combination.
And this is Nick Ryan, isn't it, who's worked on the piece?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me about the sound. Tell me what's different about this immersive audio.
It's 2 things, I would say, overall in this piece, is because you're in such different environments, right? You're under the water, you're in the rainforest, and then you take the big picture of a whole ecosystem, right? It's wonderful. From the way it goes, it is an odyssey from under the water up into the sky. So it is somewhat sublime, I would say. The scientists have been there so close to the animals and listening so carefully and essentially trying to discern their communication, right? What is being communicated between these animals when they are speaking their language. You feel like you're in the mid, and with Nick's spatialized sound, one whale will come from that corner of the room and the other one from there. So you feel like you're in the middle of their conversation, and you are, because the hydrophones are laid out underwater to capture these conversations that, of course, can travel thousands of miles. Sound is the way to sort of most discreetly capture this communication, and also for us to begin to understand that there's this deep level of communication going on in these species. We can't understand exactly what they're saying, but I mean, these scientists are beginning to understand the broad idea an orangutan is trying to get across when it's doing a long call. You get quite acquainted with the animals with them. So their field notes narrate the piece. I've compiled a script with the scientists where you're taken through this ecosystem as if you're them walking it, studying it. It's very approachable for humans. Wendy talks about tracking one particular orangutan, Nico. So you get the experience of tracking him in the rainforest and watching him make a nest. And in her words, it's this very intimate, I would argue, relationship with the orangutans. It's transportive, and the scientists are so deeply engaged in the subject of their study that it's like being inside the prism of that landscape with them.
Over the month of battling fires, I hear a change in their voice. The long call becomes raspy and croaky, ragged like a smoker's voice. Unstable calls. This aligns with our observations of behavioral changes. Fewer long calls, more time resting, less metabolizing.
What do you feel is so emotive about sound that you wanted to predominantly use sound in this piece? I know there are visuals as well, but it's the sound, isn't it?
Yeah, it's led by the sound. There will be visuals, and the visual piece is growing. But the sound, I think it's because the whole thing about sound having vibration. And what's live, presence, being live in the room with something is feeling it. So the audience is live in the room with this spatialized sound. So they're literally, in my terms, feeling it in their bones. It sort of takes this sonic tour of the globe and elevates it to an artistic experience for people.
Thank you to Kay Matchalot for chatting with me there. Sound as art, and what she said about sound being the great revealer has got me really excited for that session today. Finally, I spoke to broadcaster and psychologist Dr. Sian Williams from BBC Radio 3 Unwind. I wanted to know more about the science of sound and what happens to our minds and bodies when we listen to music.
Music is like a wonder drug because it is directly connected to the way we think, the way we feel. There are observable changes going on in our brain, and we've seen it in the lab, when we are listening to certain types of music. So, for example, it can lower our stress hormone, cortisol. It can boost the chemical called dopamine, which is about reward and pleasure. If we are on a high state of threat, which many people are in broadcasting are often on a high state of threat. I know this. I've been in it for 40 years. We're always on the go. Music can just help dial things back a bit because we've got an automatic nervous system, which is our sort of keeping your eyes out for things on the horizon, our threat response. And it can be on all the time. And our other system is called the parasympathetic system, which is our rest and digest system. And what music helps us do is tune into that bit and calm everything down. There was a study which was with students who listened to classical music 45 minutes before they went to bed. And they had fewer depressive symptoms than those who didn't listen to classical music before they went to bed. We know that it can affect both how we think, how we feel. It can affect our immune system. It can affect our perception of pain. It's an extraordinary thing, which is why we love it so much. Sometimes it's hard to know because I suppose, in a lab, we like investigating things. I'm a psychologist. I've done experiments. What can we learn? Where's the evidence? Why does it do the thing that it does? And I'm working at the Radio Festival with Professor Catherine Loveday and every day on Classical Unwind, which is on Radio 3 Unwind. She brings neuropsychological insights into why music does what it does to us. And she's going to be talking to us in our session about certain bits of music and why they can make us feel sad, why they can make us feel happy, how they can unite us as a group, how our heartbeats, if you can believe this, can synchronize with other people when we're in the same room listening to the same piece of music.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
And that's what Yeah, really, really. Wow. And yes, I love this study. But performers, every single part of their brain when they're performing lights up. And when they are performing in a choir, for example, or as musicians, their heart rate synchronizes and their breathing synchronizes. So we sort of thought, well, yeah, that makes sense. But actually, it's the same if you're sitting with a group of people listening to music. Things can start synchronizing. And that's why being at a live event or listening to music together can generate this feeling of connecting and community. And so one of the things we're going to be doing in our session is doing that, is playing some music, connecting people. We'll have a space where we do something called Find Your Focus, which we do on Radio 3 Unwind every day, 9 to 12.
And now on DAB. Yeah.
And on DAB. So exciting. So exciting. Yeah. The Find Your Focus, where we have a Find Your Focus moment every day where I choose a piece of music that has a deliberately repeating melody. There are no big distracting moments. There's no real dissonance. It's the use of certain instruments, the use of certain sounds, the patterns of sounds, the tempo and the rhythm, which allow us to go into ourselves a little bit and just slow everything down and switch on that parasympathetic system, which is so important. And that's always what I'm trying to do in therapy. It's always about, we're just taking a moment. We'll be trying that out in our session as well. We'll be having a Find Your Focus moment, which I'm excited about.
That sounds good. I often use Radio 3 Unwind to literally unwind. I will use it to drift off to sleep. And other times music can uplift you. Like you say, it can focus you in study. I've got a 15-year-old son who's just started his GCSE year. And so any advice you can give me on music to help him study. But what is it about music that you think affects our emotions in that way?
Interesting you talk about music and study, because there is research to suggest that listening to music while you study can help, but it's quite an individual thing. I mean, it will only work if you listen to the music that works, if that makes sense.
Well, this is it. I can't listen to music with lyrics if I'm trying to read something.
Yeah, because it's another distraction. Whereas if you're listening to a music which has this sort of repetitive rhythm and tempo, and when you're not going to be surprised or distracted by anything, then that's the sort of thing that can focus your mind on something else. My kids, I've just had one who's off to university, he's just done his A-levels, and another one who's done their GCSEs. And it used to drive me mad that they would put their headphones on. Yeah. And I had to go and search for the evidence. Where's the evidence that backs this up? But actually, it can really help. But it is a very individual thing. And I think, Georgie, that's the thing about music is individual. We feel, although, of course, there are genres of music that we might be drawn to as a group. There might be certain tracks that we can listen to where we all get something similar out of it. When it comes to choosing the tracks that make a real difference to us, it's around memory, and it's about people and places and things that resonate very deeply and psychologically with us, which is why when you listen to Desert Island Discs, people aren't just choosing the tracks that they like. They're choosing the tracks that have meaning to them, and they have meaning to them because they remind them of a time, a place, a person. That creates a lot of emotion. I'll give you an example. When my father, who's Welsh, was in a hospice and dying and lost the power of speech, he still connected with music, and music was incredibly important to him. And in fact, musical memory is one of the last things to go. It's one of the things we hold on to. Even those who are losing bits of themselves, their sense of self, and music is still there. And he wanted me to play him Welsh hymns. Now, Welsh hymns have a lot of minor chords. It's from that country, it's from that land where, we like immersing ourselves in that sort of the sounds of the hymns and the chapel noises, and there is something about Welsh hymns that really connected with him when we listened together, because that was important to him. And of course, that's important to me. There are certain songs that I find difficult listening to now, But there are certain songs I will go to if I need some solace. Sad songs can actually make you feel better sometimes. They reflect your emotions. Sad songs can echo and reflect emotions that are too difficult for you to voice. So being in a sound which is familiar to us, which is soothing to us, can be really helpful in things like grief. I remember listening to Max Richter's On the Nature of Daylight, which is a very slow and sort of sonorous and beautiful track, when I just heard that a very close friend of mine was not well and wouldn't last very long. And I couldn't tell anyone about it, but what I could do was process it and listen to this music. And it just brought me some comfort. So music is a language of its own. It provides something where words are not enough. Music is language anyway. I mean, music is the first thing we do, right? It's a baby babbling is music.
Yeah.
Laughter is music. Nature is music. There's music all around us in the rustle of the leaves on the trees or
The waves. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Everything is about music. Darwin talked about how important music was. And he said if he only had two things in his life, then it would be reading and music. And he would urge everyone to do this at least once a week. And he said, music is a language. It's almost like our first way of expressing ourselves. It's storytelling.
Yes, it is. And, like you say, when you're a baby, you tend to tap out rhythms on things. You'll give children blocks to knock together or little musical instruments to play its noises and sounds. And
yes.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's a way of communicating. What drew you to this research and using this in your work, the science of sound?
So I've been in radio for a very long time. So I started in radio in 1986 and I went to telly for a while and I'm back in radio now as a presenter. I was a producer to start with. There is a craft to radio, which I love, and an intimacy to radio, which you don't get anywhere else. There is a connection with the audience. It's one voice often or a couple of voices. And many people are listening on headphones. And that, I think, is a very powerful and connecting thing. But as far as music is concerned, I knew that I loved it and I didn't quite know where the science was. I also knew that sometimes in session, I deal a lot in PTSD, trauma, acute anxiety. I work with emergency responders, police officers, firefighters, ambulance workers, and journalists as well, actually. And many of them are on this very high threat state most of the time, running towards danger, running towards the story. And sometimes you need to find a different way of connecting with them that isn't just about talking. That might be about breathing exercises. It might be about listening to a piece of music together, or it might be about them curating their own playlist that is helpful to them. So when they know that they're going through a difficult patch, that they can listen to things that they feel deeply, that helps and supports them when they can't say what they're going through. I think the clinical power of that as a clinician, to me, felt really important. That why do people love it? Why do they connect with it? Why is it that they will go to it when they can't go to anyone else or can't express what they're feeling?
Thank you to Dr. Sian Williams. I found what she had to say fascinating, and if you're on your way to the festival today, I hope that all of that has whetted your appetite for what's to come on the new Dolby Library stage. If you're not joining us today, then there'll be loads of news and clips on our social media throughout the day and on our website in the days to come after the festival. If you are at festival today, come and say hi and tell me what you'd like to hear on the podcast. I always welcome your suggestions and ideas for guests and topics. For the next 3 weeks, I'll be handing the podcast over to guest producer Adam Skin from Shock Radio, who will bring you all the news from the festival and lots of guests and insight into what happened on the day. Enjoy the festival if you're coming along, and I'll see you in a few weeks' time.